Hello, everyone. This is Liz. Excited to have everyone for today's webinar. I'm really excited about today's topic and the ladies are going to be introducing you to. So I'm going to bring them on here to join me. And but welcome to everyone joining us. It is noon Eastern time. And in the chat box, if you can, it'd be great to hear where people are calling in from, where all our InvestHER community is calling in from. So please share and what you're excited about learning today. We do these free webinars consistently to support you in moving the needle, in really supporting you, empowering you to live a financially free and balanced life, which is our mission. So I'm going to let these ladies in here and we'll get going soon, but please in the chat box, if you can, hopefully, yeah, everyone can chat. Perfect. Sometimes it doesn't work. Hey, JC from New Jersey. Awesome. It's where I was born and raised. All right, let me get our panelists in here. Just give me a moment here. All right, Angela. Okay. Okay. All right, give me a second. And Angela should be coming in with me. And Stephanie. And I'm going to get Barbara in here too. Okay, awesome. Everyone should be in. I see you, Angie. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It won't let me start my video, however.
Yeah, it's done that before, and I don't know why that is the case. I
had the same issue.
Hey, hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hello. Good.
Hi, Barb's here. Same issue.
So is that a setting thing? Bear with me.
Okay.
Let's look here.
Let's see.
Who can share? Yeah. Host and panelist.
Yeah, it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah. Okay, you should be able to share your screen. Let's look at the video settings here. Why you can't join me. Everyone joining, thank you so much for being here. Just wanted to say hello. This is Liz. Please share in the chat box. We're just troubleshooting a couple issues. Please share in the chat box where you're calling in from, your name, where you're calling in from, what you're looking forward to learning here today. While I video. I typically, and all three of you are going to be presenting, right? Or no?
Yes.
I wonder if I can promote you all. That might be the other way to do it. Give me a second. I think I could just make you all co-hosts and then we can, let's see here. Hold on. Allow. Move, change. I have no idea. All right, I'm just going to make you co-host here. I wonder if I can make you all co-hosts. I think that's the way around this. I ran out of the ability to make you all. Barbara and Stephanie, you should be able to. Yeah. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hello.
Angie, I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
Yeah, should be able to do it now. All right. Are you able to join?
There we go.
There you are. Yay.
Hi, Barbara. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Liz. We've been looking so forward to this presentation today.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And I appreciate, you prefer Angie or Angela?
Angie.
Okay, awesome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And Stephanie, nice to meet you. So yeah, excited to have you on, Barbara. We've been, talking about working together and collaborating with Purse Strings. So really excited to also introduce our community officially to Purse Strings and our collaboration, and we're excited about coming together since we have such symbiotic focuses, but different. So excited about that. But yeah, welcome to everyone. We had a lot of women register for this today. We've 72 two folks on, so thank you for being here. We like to start on time. We like to end on time. We know how busy women are, and we know how much is on your plate, especially that this is being on the East Coast, where we're at the lunch hour. So I want to be really respectful of everyone's time and just thank Barbara and Angie and Stephanie for being here. So I'm going to get going. And Barbara, are you going to kind of drive the?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll throw the ball to you, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think when we do this panel, we don't need the slide up right now. We'll just have the three of us on here. If you want to do that, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, no, perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just share a little bit about our community for those who are new to us, so to speak, just to welcome them, and then I'll stop sharing after that. Just like I got a few slides.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So thank you for everyone being here. We have a number of women from Ottawa, Canada. We have at least, I think, 4 meetups in Canada. So we have Megan. Thanks for being here. It's the last comment I saw was from Canada. So you probably wonder if you win our award for being the furthest. but regardless, let's jump in here. Excited about this discussion, and it's very, very important to the work we're all involved in here. Okay. So our mission, for those who are new to the InvestHER community, please share new in the chat box. I'd love to. I see some familiar names, and I see some new names, and I love that. I love that we have new women. Great, awesome. Thanks for being here. I wanted to share a little bit about who we are and what we stand for, because it's always helpful to do that when folks are new to something, right? So our mission is to empower women to live a financially free and balanced life on their own terms. On your own terms is really the key there. And what we do is we provide an intimate global platform for women to kind of really have those deep connections while creating generational wealth. And they, we have women doing that through a variety of ways, but we have events, we have memberships, we have our InvestHER Con coming up, and constantly a lot of resources for you to jump into, just like today. So a little bit about us. We have a podcast, The Real Estate Investor Show. We are published by Bigger Pockets. That's a bi-weekly show. We release a show on Tuesday and Friday. So definitely check that out. We started that literally almost 5 years. We're coming up to our 5-year anniversary. So that's exciting. My daughter turns 5 and our podcast turns 5. We have meetups across the country and a few in Canada, like Ottawa. We have 60 plus at this point. And so those are all about creating a local community with other women who can really share and create that safe space for women to really raise their hands, ask questions, get the support they need. So a little bit about our, in terms of our Strive members, that's for more of our experienced women, 5 to 10 deals. We open the doors twice a year. We do that during our conference, and we do that at the end of the year. So if that speaks to you, it's a high level mastermind where women really are looking to go deeper in growing their portfolio. So our Facebook group, many of you know, is a free resource to you. I really look forward to having Barbara and the rest of the purse strings, women and providers there active. So as women need support and ask questions, I'm excited, Barbara, that you guys will be more active there too. And I know you're part of the Facebook group. A little bit about we have events happening. We also have an EXP org team. So those are for real estate agents that are women who are also looking to invest, right? So we want you to build your wealth while you help other people find property. That's what we stand for with that particular team. And then we're constantly investors. Justin and I have a trip planned in Florida very soon to go look at investment deals. So we're also very active along with you. So know that we're teaching and sharing and creating a platform, but we're active in real estate as well. And we love it just as much as you do. And just a quick share. Actually, I think this number has been increased. I think we're 80% booked. So for those who are bought a ticket and are coming to InvestHER Con, make sure you get your room, because they're just about out of their rooms, and we will have the entire location there. So if you haven't heard, we're doing a conference May 18th and 19th in Scottsdale. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be really very special, because we will literally we've reserved the entire resort for us. So and it's a very quaint but very nice resort. And last quick thing, and then we'll jump in here. I'm excited about this discussion. Really quick, we also have opportunities for companies to come on board as a sponsor. And these will be we have 500 women coming, and this is for companies who are looking to get more exposure to all of us, right? The women that need these products and services. So that's one of our goals, is to put you in front of the right resources. That's what we hold very true. That's why I'm excited to introduce Barbara and her strings to all of you. Resources that we've kind of vetted and that we've really looked into. So there'll be a number of companies already booked. We have some of our sponsorships already sold out, but we're constantly looking for the right mix of companies to be there to offer you support. So if you are a company and you're on this webinar and you're interested in learning more, it's on our website too. All right, that's what I got here. So without further ado, Barbara and I forget how we even connected, right? You kind of forget how you connect to people. But regardless, we connected, and I want you to explain what purse string stands for. But when we first connected, Barbara, I know you and I had our first call. I just had this like, okay, their mission is very similar and their values are very similar, and we hold that very true. We do not like when people come onto our webinar and our platform and people just start talking about what they do and there's no alignment, because really that's what it's about, right? Especially for women. And so what I loved was that we're so dedicated to serving women in two different niches, right? Us being investing and you being more on the financial planning and resources for that piece. Right. And what I'm so excited about this discussion is that there are so many women in our community that are happily married, been married a long time, and then there's a ton of women that are in transition and that are not in that bucket. And we serve all women. And so what I love about this is women in transition and how they can set themselves up by themselves for financial success. So I love this topic and it's so important. And without further ado, Barbara, I'll have you introduce Angie and Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here. Excited to get to know you more both. And Barbara, thanks for being here. And you can share a little more about what purse strings stands for, and then we'll jump into this topic.
Wonderful, Liz. Thank you so much. I just have goosebumps when we were talking about the alignment here, because purse strings was created specifically to help women be financially fearless. Many of you, we kind of have that same aligned mission. So I'm Barb Provo, founder of Purse Strings, along with my partner, Maggie Nielsen, who's in the background today, but she'll be teeing up some information in chat for you. And the reason we created Purse Strings is because women were such an overlooked market in the financial industry. They still are today, yet women are the most powerful market on the planet, to the tune of an underserved $23 trillion market, set to come into the largest transference of wealth in history. And what's so impressive, Liz, is what you and Andressa have done, because Maggie and I were at your conference last year and so impressed by all the women in the room. And at one point you said, how many of you are millionaires with your investments? And more than half the room stood up. And as Maggie and I navigated your conference and talked to the different women in the room, we were just like blown away at how powerful women are, how smart they are, how aligned they are with the same mission. And so the reason that we wanted to partner with you is because, like you said, women are in transition, right? They're either navigating a divorce, or maybe they're widowed, or maybe they're transitioning out of the workplace and starting their own business. And maybe they're preparing for retirement, but it doesn't matter. Women are smart, they work very hard, but they're not always navigated on their own financial planning. So what we do is we look for top-tier financial professionals across the United States and into Canada who are really focused on serving a female market. They understand women in the financial industry. They understand what women want from their financial professionals. They're ready to be here and educate the women community, and they're here to help them grow in their financial planning. So I've brought two aces to the table today, both Stephanie and Angela. I'm going to give them a few minutes to introduce themselves, but I'm telling you, these women are top tier financial professionals, and they have the answers for you. I'm going to have them introduce each one of them. And then we're going to go in and really dive into some of the objectives that we want to share and have a dialogue with your group today.
And just quick question logistically, Barbara, would it be helpful? And I'll stop talking. I'll turn my video off just so I'm not distracting to all of you, and you guys can have your kind of discussion. I can come back on and field questions from the group if that helps. So you can kind of share that. I'm sure you have questions and kind of a direction to go, and then we can kind of go, at least 25 minutes, 30 minutes ish, and then bring on questions from the group. If everyone could just put their questions in the Q&A box, our chat box gets very noisy, and then it just gets very confusing with questions and comments and, hey, how you doing? And just all the different things that happen in chats. So please put your questions in Q&A, and I can come back on like quarter of. Does that work in a half hour? I don't know how long, you know. Okay. And then that way you can have the space to do, you know, the discussion, and then I'll come back on to field more questions from our community. So everyone put your question in the Q&A, write it down. I know for me, I forget if I don't write it down. Yeah. And the floor is yours. So enjoy, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Okay, let's get started. Stephanie, why don't you kick us off and give us your intro?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Stephanie McCullough. My business is called Sophia Financial. I named it Sophia because my Greek friends tell me it means wisdom in Greek. And I feel like my mission is to empower more women to make wise financial decisions so that they can control their future. I firmly believe a world where more women control more wealth is a better place. And I'll tell you just briefly, I started in the business 25 and a half years ago as a career changer, mind you, and I joined my father's business. And when I saw kind of like the financial advisor kind of like, you know, status quo, is like, oh, shoot, I can't do this work. I'm not like those guys. Like, I'm not a natural born salesperson. I don't have an MBA from a fancy school, but luckily I didn't run away from the industry because we had a lot of corporate clients. We had a lot of retirement plans and that kind of thing where I could go, I didn't have to sell anything day one, thank goodness, but I could go do the enrollment meetings and meet with people one-on-one. And I'll tell you, a hospital was my main client for many years. And the majority of employees at a hospital, as you might know, are women. So I was meeting with all these women who had either outsourced the financial decision-making to a man in their life. The may or may not have gone well, or the man may or may not have stuck around, right? Or they had been poorly treated by someone in my industry, which just makes me angry, or they'd like put it off, right? They'd done the head in the sand thing, for which I blame no one, because for a lot of reasons that I'm sure we'll partly get into. But I thought there has to be a better way. We have to be able to have a more meaningful conversation about money with women to bring them into this conversation so that you can take affirmative action to control your own future and set yourself up for success. So that's been my mission for the past, 25 years. Happy to be here. Barbara, you muted yourself.
I did. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Angie, take it away.
Thanks, Barb. And thanks, Stephanie. So I'm so excited to be here with Stephanie and Barbara and to meet all of you on InvestHER. So my name is Angie Rebuffo. I am in Anchorage, Alaska. So I know my Ottawa fellows are out there, my Canadian fellows, and I think I saw someone that was from Maine. So we are all over the United States, and I just absolutely love it. It's still dark here, and snowy. But so I have been in the financial services industry for over 25 years, but I've only focused on financial planning and advising in the last 15. And I, like Stephanie, am also a career changer. I'm a nurse by degree, so she would have seen me in the hospital at some point. I'm sure Stephanie would have seen me. And I came into the business because I married a man. I've been married to him for 41 years, and he had a financial advisor, and he introduced me to the financial advising world. And I found that to be so helpful and for me to understand all of the things that go into financial planning and advising, because I was put my money in a savings account and I will be good. That was my mantra. And I found that is not necessarily the best way to go. And so when he retired after 30 years in the Air Force, I decided that was the time for me to really delve into financial planning and become a financial advisor and planner. And like Stephanie, found that women found this industry, financial services industry, to be incredibly complicated, and the financial products and services out there were overwhelming. And so a lot of them turned away from that. And again, to Stephanie's point, they either delegated that to someone else or just didn't do it at all. And so my mission became, if I can help one woman become financially successful, then I will have done a good thing. And so I am so excited to be here and be a part of Purse Strings and be, with Stephanie, talking about how you guys can you ladies can really move the dial as far as how you can become financially successful. And I know from what Barbara has said that many of you in the real estate world are dollar-wise financially successful, and that just is exciting to me to do that. And so we just want to be able to give you some other steps along the way that will solidify that wonderful financial success that you're working so hard for.
Awesome. That's beautiful. And we know that the number one regret women have is that they haven't started sooner or haven't invested more. And, you know, you can't sometimes make up that time. So we always say the best time to start your financial planning was yesterday, but if you didn't do it yesterday, do it today. So why don't the both of you share your insights on why it's so important for women, no matter what, especially in transition, why it's so important for them to have their own financial plan. So Stephanie, why don't you kick it off?
Oh, yeah, I think this is really valuable. And I would say for sure, women who are, you know, either becoming on their own or have been on their own, but even women in a partnership of some kind, to have your own plan is very important. And when we talk about a financial plan, a lot of people I meet say, oh, you're a financial planner, you do investments. Yeah, but investments are one tiny part of your financial life, right? We got to look at the whole thing. And I think one of the misnomers that's out there is that a financial plan is a static document. It's a big fat thing, and the industry did this to itself, right? We used to hand out giant fat binders and walk you through every page, and then it would sit on a shelf and nobody would ever look at it again. So I prefer to think of financial planning as a verb, right? A financial plan, if you were to sit down with me this year to come up with a financial plan, we're making a bunch of guesses about what the future might hold and how to set yourself up and your family and your loved ones up for whatever the future might hold, right? Kind of, this is the direction I want to go in. If it goes well, let's think about that. If it doesn't go well, let's think about what could go wrong. And we make our guesses and we come up with some action steps that are going to stand you in good stead. And then a year goes by and we know what happened. That's one more year we know what happened. So then we have to adjust and update. So it's definitely a verb, but the importance of it, I've had so many women that say, I want to have a plan and I want to work the plan, right? Because as Angie said, this financial world is complex, it's confusing. There's a lot of information coming at us. So taking that time to center and think, no, I'm going to start on my values, my priorities, what I'm looking to build, not what my neighbors are doing, not what my mother told me I should do, or my cousins. It's about me. And that's not selfish, by the way. And I can have a whole argument with you about that. But, you know, really starting from your core values and then lining up the money to support that. Beautiful.
Angie?
Yeah, so again, I want to echo everything that Stephanie said. It is a financial plan is again, she calls it a verb. I call it a living document, right? Because it has to be able to pivot with you. And if we haven't learned anything in the last couple of years, is that everything changes on a dime, right? And so you can't have a plan, put it on the shelf and then expect it to work. It needs to be able to, take the twists and turns along the way. Many of you are, again, women in transition. You started off in one place and you ended up someplace else. And so, a plan that you started years ago may not be applicable today. One of the things that I like to focus on with clients, and I tell them all the time, is that think of financial services and planning as a foreign country. And if you were going to a foreign country, wouldn't you plan it like you would plan how you were going to get there? You were going to plan on what you would need to take, on your trip to the foreign country. You might even need a translator, right, to help you understand the language and talk the language. Well, that's what we in financial services, we as financial advisors and planners, think of us as that translator or that tour guide through your trip through financial services, because it is complicated. And so we want to make sure that you understand, right, what you are going through or what you can do. It's like learning a new language. And I believe, and I know Stephanie does, because we've been talking about this, and I know that Purse Strings and Barb and Maggie are just, on the pedestal podium screaming this all the time, is that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And so we want to empower you ladies out there, right, to go through this process. when we talk about financial planning, we also look at it and we decide, you decide what your intention is. And I think we have to go into financial planning with the intention. What's your intention? What's your goal? What do you want to do? And I think it starts from really a money story. I think all of us can think back and we have some sort of money story. My money story is my mother used to tell me all the time that I needed to have $20 in my pocket in case I ever needed to get in a cab for whatever reason. And, if I was on a really horrible date and I needed to get away from the guy, I would have $20 that I could go out, call a cab and go. And to this day, I still have $20 in my, in my purse. It's like, I know I've got my debit card and my credit card and I can Apple Pay and I can do all of those things. I still have my $20. So it starts there. It starts with what your money story is, because I think once you identify what your money story is and help us as planners identify what your money story is, we can start to have that really great conversation.
I love that.
Can I
That's
say
great. Yeah.
One more thing, Barb, especially to this audience, right? Like there's an area of the financial world that you guys know a lot, probably way more than me. Real estate and real estate investing. That's amazing. And you have learned, you are learning, you're figuring that out. The other pieces of it, like you can figure that stuff out too. Like Angie said, it's complicated and it's not undoable. I mean, like your savings and debt strategy. Okay. Your other investing strategy, right? Real estate is one type of investment. There's other type of investments, your insurance, that kind of stuff, like your risk management, what could go wrong, like looking at all those pieces. And I just want to say, no one teaches us. So I encounter so many women that have all this shame and guilt, like, oh, I should be better at this stuff. I can't believe I'm so bad with money. How did I run up that credit card debt? Back up. We got to take away that shame and blame because no one teaches us. They just throw us out in the world with these complex financial products where, by the way, all the marketing messages are spend, 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 use your credit cards. And, how can we expect to have just this innate knowledge? It's not innate. We have to do it. You could do it with a buddy. You can do it with a friend. You can do it with a mastermind group. You can do it with a professional. There's different ways to do it, but you can totally do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if, like you said, Angie, if we haven't learned anything in the last couple of years, gosh, with COVID, the one thing that I saw over and over again is that women are the safety net for everything, right? We are there catching the children who need to be educated, taking care of the sick. Many left the workforce. So talk about transition, right? Women have been leaving the workforce. Many women are starting their own businesses because they need more flexibility, to the tune of like 1,600 women a day are starting their own businesses. Women are a powerful force, I'll tell you that. But let's talk about other transitions, right? The average age of a widow is 59. And we know divorce has really been up there. And they say February is going to be a really tough divorce month because many people are coming out of COVID and realizing they need to make some changes in their life. And women need to start preparing to take care of themselves. We need to look at some of these situations that we really didn't want to look at before. We want to look at, am I in a solid marriage? Is this marriage going to last? Do I need to prepare for a divorce? We need to look at, widowhood. A lot of people became widows during COVID. Am I prepared? Am I planned? No more deer in the headlights. So let's talk about, and Angie, I'd like to start with you this time. What are some legal documents that you think all women must have in place in order to really protect themselves during transition?
Thank you, Barb. First off, a will. If nothing else, have a will. I think one of the most costly things that we go through without having that type of a document is probate. It's costly. It's costly. It's time consuming. We've passed on, but we've left to our friends and families having to navigate, right, what they think we want them to do. Just tell them what it is you want them to do, right? So if nothing else, start with the will. Everyone on this call, is in the real estate market, right? You're doing your real estate thing and you're doing it marvelously. So what does that structure look like? What does your real estate structure look like? Do you need to have a trust? So on top of that will, do you need to have a trust? Is that something else that you need to put, in place? So think about your real estate holdings and what that looks like. But let's start with something very basic. Make sure that those things that are beneficiary driven have beneficiaries attached to them. And not only a beneficiary, think about who the contingent beneficiary is, right? Because anything can happen. So what does that look like? Because it takes it out of probate. There's no guessing. We know exactly where you want to go with that. But please make sure that if you have a beneficiary, that you update it, that you look at it and you update it. Again, because things change. You go through a divorce, right? Your partner predeceases you. And so suddenly again, it's back into probate if we don't have those things tied up. So start with the will, start with making sure our beneficiaries are intact.
Those are definitely important things for, the should you pass on. But we also want to think about what if something horrible happens, but you're still with us, right? You're not deceased, but you're incapable of making your own decisions. And this, quite frankly, is more common. It happens more often than actually passing away early. So that's when you need things like a power of attorney. And there's two different types. One is for financial decisions. So, if you couldn't be making decisions about your real estate holdings, who would do that in your stead? If you have a car accident and are in a coma for a time, or just are, dealing with a heck of a lot, who do you feel comfortable naming to make those decisions for you? And then there's also medical power of attorney, or medical directives, they're sometimes called. So that means who's going to make your medical decisions. If, at least in the US, I believe in most states, they're going to turn to your spouse if you're married. Well, what if you're going through a divorce, but you're not quite divorced yet? You might not want that spouse, not quite yet ex-spouse, to be making decisions. So who do you want to be doing that? And then, of course, naming people to oversee kids and, other things like that. These are not fun things to think about. This is a really easy topic to put off. My will needs to be updated. And I've been putting it off for several months now, because who wants to think about this? It's not fun, but it's such a gift to your loved ones. And if any of you have been on the other side, having to deal with someone who's passed away, who has been through horrible medical issues, and trying to sort it out and figure out where everything is and all of that, it's a huge gift. So please get those things in place. And then once they're in place, make sure you tell people where they are so that they can find them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Stephanie. I was telling Stephanie and Barb the story about my mom before. My mom made sure that she had a will. She was very good about that. She had this wonderful will that she put in a safety deposit box. She told us it was in the safety deposit box. And then when my mom passed away, my sister and I looked at each other and we said, okay, but you didn't tell us what bank it was in. So now we're in search of the safety deposit box that holds the will that my mother so wonderfully put together. So it really is important that you let people know where that will or where your documents are, right? And so, there's a lot of ways to do that these days. You can have it in a safe deposit box, you can put it in the cloud, paper form is still a good thing to have, but wherever it is, and, please make sure that many ones know where they are so that they can, execute the thing that you wanted them to do in the first place. And one other thing, when, Stephanie was talking about powers of attorney, understand that when you have a general power of attorney, because most people say, oh, but I got a general power of attorney, but a general power of attorney is only as good as the place that will accept them. So you can't assume that all places will accept them, Barb, and so it's important to have a financial power of attorney, right, that speaks specifically to your finances. I would recommend that you talk to your bank or, credit union and say, what is it that you need? What's the verbiage that you need in this financial power of attorney so that you have it correctly worded? Too many times people come and they say, but they won't talk to us. I have a general power of attorney, but they won't accept it. So make sure that you know exactly what your institution will accept. If you have investments, it's the same thing. Make sure you have the verbiage correct on those powers of attorney.
Yeah, and I think, Angie, you still haven't found that, have you?
I haven't found the will. Luckily for us, we had put some other things in place. My mom's home, we put my sister and my mother, had my sister's name and my name placed on the deed. So when she passed, it just became a tenant's in its entirety and was able to be transferred that way. So yeah, it was not a good search.
Yeah, that's tough. So we're talking about a will and your powers of attorney, and then updating your beneficiaries, and then checking on all that annually, if not at times something happens in your life and there's some kind of transition. And we were just talking, we have ladies-in-law who are also purse strings approved professionals, and they were telling us their stories that they get around people who, you know, have died and money went to wrong people in the family that wasn't intended, but because they never updated their documents, it caused so much unrest. So not only having those documents in place, having them updated on a regular basis, but also putting them in a place where people know what your intentions are, where to find your documentation. And when you do, you know, get an executor, you name that executor, the executor knows that, and they know what they've gone over those documents with you. So yes, I mean, I think the stat was only 33% of people have all of this in place. So especially those of you who have a lot of investments, this is really, really critical. So those documents are baseline important to have. Now let's move on to what are the steps that these lovely ladies should take to prepare themselves on a great journey to, you know, being financially savvy in their future. What's the roadmap, if you will? Steph, you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. Well, I always say step 0, as we mentioned before, is just getting super clear on your own intentions, your own values. What are you trying to create, right? Always recenter there. But then I think an important step, and again, this is one a lot of people would rather not go through, but it's important, is to look at where your money is going, your dollars, your cash flow in. Where am I getting income from? All of my various sources. And if it's changing from a 2-person household to a 1-person household, take a look at how that's going to change.
Yeah.
What's coming in and what's going out. And remember, this is a place where a lot of self-judgment comes in. So we're going to try to leave that judgment behind. The numbers on the page are not judging you. That's all here. That's all the stories and whatever we might have picked up along the way. So try to bring some self-compassion, give yourself some grace. Oh my gosh, I spent how much at Nordstrom last year? Really? It's just data. It's just data. We're looking at information because we can't change until we know what we're changing. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to change, but a super important step to knowing kind of anything on your financial journey is, what does life cost me right now? What am I spending on? I have a client who calls it her ramen noodle budget. If you had to cut back for whatever reason to bare bones, what does that look like, right? What is your bare bones cost of living versus how you'd like to live? And if something came up, what levers would you pull to cut that back? Well, I'm canceling cable. I'm going to the cheaper phone subscription. I'll do, whatever it is for you. No judgment. It's your own decisions. But what does that cash flow look like? Where are the dollars going now is a super important step.
Awesome. How about you, Angie?
So I look at some basic things to add on to what Stephanie said. So now you have right intention. You know where you want to go. You know what it looks like. You know maybe what your goals are. And now you have cash flow information that's coming in. So then let's focus on what I call the 3 pillars, right? Cash management, risk management, right? Investment or wealth management. I think a lot of us spend, and you guys are already in that wealth management investment space, but what about the other 2 pillars, right? Stephanie talked about cash flow, knowing what your cash flow looks like. Do you have emergency savings? Like then, that should be one of those things that you look at when you're looking at your cash flow. There's savings, but do you have emergency savings? And you really need to carve that out, not kind of lump it into savings, because then when you start pulling from savings, how do you know that you didn't pull into your emergency savings account, right? So have that separate. But that's in that whole cash management piece, that cash flow, emergency savings, I think are one of those fundamental things that you need to have. And then look at what your risk management looks like. Risk management is that whole piece of insurance, not just life insurance, but it's, property and casualty insurance, your health insurance, all of those insurances are in that risk management piece. And the reason that that is so important is if you don't have those two pieces covered, your cash flow, your emergency savings, and your risk covered, then you will steal from your investment wealth side. So all the things that you wanted to do in that investment wealth side will then suddenly move over into those other two pillars. So if you can focus on those three things, just on your, you can even do that on your own, look at those three pieces, then that is the beginning, really, I think, of walking you through a good, successful financial journey.
I love it.
Yeah, I love that idea. Whenever you're looking at making an investment, right? My first question is, should this money be invested at all? Right? And that's looking at what is your emergency fund, your emergency savings, how much should that be for you?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to maybe the ramen noodle budget, right? If I had to exist on just this emergency savings, how long would it last me?
Right.
And do you need some buffer savings for your real estate holdings, right? You
Exactly.
maybe need some emergency savings for there if you have some months without rentals, or if you have a tree fall on property, whatever that was. So that's an important piece of it. And
Yeah,
then looking at
absolutely.
investments, right?
Right.
Looking at what do I want this investment to do for me? Because investment is usually putting something away to grow for the future. So looking at the characteristics perhaps of your real estate investing and saying, okay, these things maybe, maybe it gives me some income flow, maybe it gives me some long-term growth. Maybe liquidity is not so great. Okay, so maybe my investment's over here. I want something that's going to grow, but I want something that's liquid. Might maybe need it before I think so. Always asking, what do I expect this financial vehicle to do for me? And what is it not designed to do, right? What could go wrong so that it doesn't behave as I hope? I think that's an important thing to look at.
Right. And I think when you're looking from a real estate perspective, I always say to my clients, okay, so it's giving you a passive income stream. That's really good. But you also have to pay attention to the taxation of those things. So again, when we're looking at the cash flow piece, right, what are the taxations? Because again, I am a firm believer that our taxes are not going to go down. I think our taxes are going to get greater in the future. So how am I going to be taxed not only now, but how am I going to be taxed in the future? And so what assets do I need that are going to help me there? Again, talking to, from Stephanie's perspective, when she's talking about illiquid kinds of things, what can be liquid, what are tax-free, what are taxable, right? Diversification. So part of your plan should be your real estate holdings and then diversification, because we know from past experience that diversification is the safest way to do that. So all eggs in one basket, whether it's real estate or any other investment, all eggs in one basket isn't necessarily the safest method going forward, because the worst possible time is not the time to try and sell your real estate holdings to get cash flow, right? So making sure that you kind of have those pieces in parts and looking at them from timing wise as well, because I think that becomes, really important of when you can get those dollars out and be able to do what you need to do, and have they covered everything that you need them to cover.
Yeah. We did put a link in the chat. That's a free download called Where's My Money Going? And it really helps you work through your monthly cash flow of what's income and what's going out. But it's really about strengthening those kind of muscles around it's not all and nothing. It's on a regular basis contributing to your emergency fund, on a regular basis contributing to your vacation fund, on a regular basis contributing to an IRA, and just making kind of a machine out of the monies and your investments and your cash flow and things like that, but really understanding for your own self based on what your objectives are and where you want your money to go. And we haven't even touched on families in terms of 529 plans and things like that. So we have a lot more to talk about at future webinars, but I think it's a good time to open up for some questions. I know Liz was going to monitor the chat, and also there were some other questions that were coming in. Hi, Liz. What questions do you have for Angie and Stephanie?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, I think great questions that are coming through. I'll field the Q&A because they listened. They asked the questions in the Q&A. But then we'll look to see if there's any other questions. But does a will need to be registered?
It depends a lot on the state and county that you're in. In the state of Alaska, for instance, we recommend that they absolutely take their will and take it down to the county courthouse as a place of holding. So it's not registered per se, but if you have it there, you can tell your family members and friends. It is registered at the county courthouse, and as long as you have, released to them permission, they will then release the will if they can't find it anyplace else.
Yeah, a lot of those legal questions are kind of location dependent, right? State by state. I'm not sure how Canada works it. So kind of, I would say a will and your legal documents is not someplace you want to scrimp, where you want to don't do one of those do-it-yourself wills. Try to find a lawyer who's good at your situation. Ideally, someone who works with people who've got real estate holdings, right? Who know what they're doing. It's not a place to try to save a few cents.
Especially if you've got real estate in different states. They're not housed all in one state. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was a powerful experience. Me and my husband, before kids, you're like, oh, do we really need a will? I hate to say that. I know, don't shake your head at me. But then you do have kids. And then you have, it was just complex, right? Multiple businesses, multiple properties. A lot of women on this call, right, have different things with different partners. So going through that exercise was totally painful, but it's actually very empowering. And even just from the perspective, ladies, when you start to list out all of your real estate and saying, okay, God forbid something happened to us today, what should happen to those properties? What a phenomenal exercise to do that, because that made us want to do some of that now. And not, so totally not connect. I wanted to connect those dots because it's very powerful to look at all of that and make some very objective decisions. So can't say that enough. It's a project, especially when you have different businesses and different properties. It's so helpful and something you should always be looking at. Okay. Besides the will, does it matter the amount of your assets to have a trust? At what point should you have a trust?
The trust laws, and again, I would refer this back to an estate planner for sure. But from a generic perspective or a general topic, I would say those of you with real estate, which is everybody basically on this call, should really talk to an estate planner about a trust, because a will may not be strong enough to do that. And it really isn't a matter of how much you have, it's what you have. So it's not the value so much as it is the holdings, the pieces and parts that you have. My husband and I have a small rental, have a rental unit, and we made sure that we put that in a trust as a standalone piece to our estate planning because of that. But again, to what Stephanie said, absolutely make sure that you get an estate planner who is versed in real estate and understands that. And as you go, again, to your point, Liz, going through this exercise, you will be able to bring all of that information to them. Again, a financial planner will be able to help you gather all those pieces and parts together and move that forward to the estate planner rather than you trying to do it all by yourself. Some of the things that we can do is help you navigate that.
Yeah. And then what's the best way to protect yourself from probate?
So probate, at least in the States, again, I'm not sure how Canada works, but that is, how estates are settled. So the things that go through your will are going through probate, which is a public process. It's a lengthy process, and there can be expenses associated with it. Angie mentioned before things that pass by beneficiary designation. So a life insurance policy, a 401k, an IRA, a retirement plan, if it has a beneficiary on it, and even just a regular investment account, bank account, you can put a designation on there to transfer on death. Then it goes automatically to my husband, to my kids, to whomever, without it having to go through probate. So I think the easy one is just making sure that anything you've got that can have a beneficiary designation on it has a beneficiary. And then if there are other things that you want to avoid probate, that's when a trust can come to the fore and at least provide, some level of privacy in the transactions.
Yeah, that's great. What should you tell your children about guardianship? When and go you involve them in, okay. When and should you involve them, and how do you involve them in the planning process?
So is the
So when I'm
question,
hearing,
Liz, I was going to say, I'm sorry, Stephanie, is the question about when you should tell your children about who you've decided should be their guardian? Is that?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm interpreting, but please, it's anonymous attendee. So please jump in if that's not the case, but yeah. Or even just best practices in that process, maybe, and because they're also asking when, or do you even involve them in the planning process or in that process?
I don't know. I think
Depends on
that's a
their age.
hard one, right?
Yeah, I
Like
think
depends
so.
on the age of the kids. I mean,
Yep.
when I was growing up, we had another family across the street. Like we were all best friends. The girl was my best friend. The boy was my brother's best friend. We hung out all the time. We all knew that if something happened to my parents, we would go with the Hanishes. Something that happened to Hanish parents, they would come with us. But that was just kind of easy and obvious because we always hung out together.
Yeah.
With my kids, like we didn't have a family like that. My husband and I still kind of agonized. Thank goodness they're both over 21 now, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, would they go with your brother? Would they go with my brother? Like, it's difficult. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that. It is a tough one.
Yeah, I think that really is, I think, a great conversation with you and your partner, number one, because it may not be a family member that you want for whatever family dynamics that are going on. And then you need to have that conversation with whoever you choose to make sure that they're able to do that. I mean, one of the things I think that we do, is we pick someone who's basically close to our age, right? And so that in itself could be a challenge because as we age, so are they. And so they would be really great having that in the very beginning, but then as time goes on, maybe that's not the case, right? And so you may want someone else. And so having that discussion. And when you bring your children in, I think that, financial literacy should start as young as possible. So I think you start there. You start with teaching them some of the basics about money. Not even finances, just about money. You start there. And when you start there and you add on over the course of time, you're going to see whether or not they're really interested in what it is, the rest of that is. And then bring them in then. But don't try and, you got to meet them where they're at. And if they're not interested, forcing that conversation can be, I think, really troublesome.
Yeah. No, great perspective. This is a good one too for a lot of women in our community and outside. How do I not freak out? And Alana, thank you for being vulnerable, because that's really that's part of how we all grow. So I appreciate you sharing this here. How do I not freak out so much about my credit card debt? It really drags me down at times, and I would just like to give myself a little more grace. So Alana, and I'm gonna give the floor to the experts, but Alana, I find myself when I'm about to freak out about something, because, it's a daily occurrence in my world too. I mean, breath work really helps. It's not going to take the money. It's not going to make your credit card debt go to zero, obviously, but it really gets you into the mindset and the mind frame to start to look for solutions. So for me, breath work has been really very helpful to help give myself grace. But now let's get to tactics, because that's very important in strategy. But give yourself grace. And I appreciate your vulnerability and openness of sharing that. So what do you ladies think? I mean, there's probably a lot to decreasing that credit card debt, but what would you say is your best ideas on how Alana can do that?
Yeah, I'll jump in just quick. I mean, first, number one, the no freaking out, right? Like, we're not looking backwards. We're not blaming ourselves for however we got there. It might have been medical debt. It might have been emergencies. It might have been, who knows? Doesn't matter, right? It is what it is at this moment. So moving forward, right? I mean, I think the first step, if at all possible, is to try to make sure you're not increasing the debt and adding to it, right? So that might mean going on a temporary spending diet, or, something. The way I look at credit is you're paying today for things you spent in the past, right? Whereas investments is you're putting money aside today for things you're going to spend in the future. So when you're looking at the credit, what we want to try to do is, right, reduce the amount so that we can get closer to spending what we need today out of our income. So, sometimes, again, just going back into scientist mode and collecting, like, all right, here's my different cards, here's my interest rate,
Mhm.
and here's what I owe on this one, here's the monthly payment, like writing it down. And I have to say, because the self-shaming voice is very loud, at least mine is, if you can find a money buddy, someone that you can do this together. And it's hard because we're not supposed to talk about money. So you might not know that your neighbor or your best friend also has credit card debt, right? But if you can find someone, and this, you've taken the first step, Alana, by, saying it, if you can find someone to do this together, right? We're gonna look at it. We're gonna come up with a plan and holding each other accountable. Because when you're just on your own, it's so easy to spin around in your own head and get with the self beating up voices and the, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna do this, or I'm helpless. But I think the moving forward is putting it down in black and white and finding a way to set aside the judgment. Angie, you have other thoughts, I'm sure.
Well, what you said is really, I think, the direction. The only other thing that I would say is debt. Anything that happens with money goes back, I think, to that money story a little bit, and identifying the why. Why do you have that spending habit? Why?
Yeah.
And that takes a moment of being quiet and self, internalizing and looking and saying, what is it that you're doing that leads you to that next step? Because we can't change behavior until we identify what it is and we acknowledge it, right? And that's a behavior change, because you can get out of debt and then turn yourself and go right back into debt. It becomes a circular thing, and back to, what Stephanie is saying, and then we get into shaming, right? I did it once and then I'm back here again, and how did I get here? Okay, so let's look at the why of it. There are those of us that can help you do that, but you too can sit back for just a moment and say, what is it that I'm trying to fill, fix, or change that leads me into this position?
Yeah, that's great. I had taken a workshop with my husband early on, and it's still in my mind. It's called the Millionaire Mind Intensive, T. Harv Eker. I mean, talk about in your face of your money personality and your blueprint, right? I'm a saver, he's a spender. And like, it was an emotional weekend. I felt like it was a very good therapeutic weekend for us. But I mean, it's very intense. And that plays so much, right? As we invest, our worth is the property. Our worth is that one investment that may not have gone well. A lot of shame, especially for women. So I love this conversation because it's one, awareness, right? And then you start to watch ourselves. And that's why we have a community. That's why you have a community, Barbara, because we can't do this alone. To even expect us to do this, it's a lot here when it comes to money, investing, wealth building. These are big things. So we don't want you to do it alone. That's what I think, Barbara, you and I are so aligned with our communities. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. There's a lot of questions here. So obviously this is a very, very, I think 106 people were on at the beginning. There's 106 people on still. This is a big conversation. We'll be doing a lot more with purse strings. So I want to make sure all of you got a chance to share where women can learn more about what's what you all are up to, and what the best way to do that, for you, Barbara, and for your approved ladies here. I want to mention real quick the question about, and then I'll have you do that. The question about Tiffany, you asked about how do you all feel about people using their 401k or self-directed to invest in real estate? I'm going to share just a quick reference with you. Quest Trust has been a collaborator with us as well. They've been a sponsor of us. They're a very large self-directed IRA custodian. Why I'm putting Brianna's information there, she works for them, but go to their website. There's a lot of education and articles on their website about the do's and don'ts when you're either transferring your money over to a self-directed, whether you reach out to her or not. I mean, they're a great resource, but Quest Trust is a very highly reputable IRA company. I would highly recommend, but they have a lot of the do's and don'ts. And I just wanted to share that because I'm not going to get a chance to answer that particularly. So I wanted to mention that as I saw that and why to do that. Don't forget about the tax implications of all that too. So just, again, go to the experts, because I'm not an IRA custodian, but we know them, and you need to know the do's and don'ts and the right way to do it. So without further ado, Barbara, why don't you share best way and just kind of share about purse strings, and then I'll have Stephanie and Angie do the same. And I know we'll be doing a lot more together.
Awesome. Yeah. Pursestrings.co is our website. Again, we provide free online tools and resources to help you make really smart decisions for yourself and your family. Moreover, we have this amazing directory of which Steph and Angie are on of top tier financial professionals who are really vetted and focused on serving a female market. So yes, we have financial professionals in terms of planners and advisors, but we have family attorneys, we have CPAs, we have financial coaches. Wherever you are on your financial journey, we have resources who have been vetted, and you can go look at their whole full-blown profile right on our site and reach out to them right from there. So we're the go-to resource, one-stop shop, if you will, for information, knowledge, and skill and vetted professionals. It's pursestrings.co, and we put a little guide in here called Where's My Money Going? There's a link to that. That's free. It's a great download to help you really see where your cash flow is. I'm going to hand it over to our experts here, Angie and Stephanie. They have profiles on our site as well. But Steph, why don't you tell other ways that they can reach out to you?
Sure. Angie and I created a little slide too with our contact info she'll put up there.
Yep,
So
there.
my website is my business, Sophia Financial. That's Sophia with an F.
Oh, there you go.
.com. And I also have a podcast called Take Back Retirement, because in the 80s when I went to college, we had Take Back the Night marches against violence against women. So that's a nod to my Gen Xers. Yeah, and there's my contact info.
Great. Go ahead, Angie.
Yep. So, and there again, my contact information is there. Ryan Financial Strategies. Sophia talked about, Stephanie talked about the fact that Sophia, means wisdom. Ryan means lion in Japanese, and my mom was Japanese. And so the story behind that is, she loved lions, and she was the lioness of the pride. And so all of my clients become part of my pride. And so therefore, Ryan Financial Strategies. But there's my contact information right there on the screen.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you everyone for being on today's webinar. We did record it. This will be sent to everyone that registered. I know we had a few hundred people register, so this will go out to everyone as a recording. And excited to collaborate further with both of you, Stephanie and Angie and Barbara. Thanks so much. Excited to do more together and just, as you said, financially fearless, financially free, just, really putting our finances first and letting go of all the shame and all the stuff that goes along with it. So appreciate everyone's time today so much. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us.
All
Have
right.
a wonderful
Have a good
day,
everybody. And with every webinar we do something with what you learned. Take one small action. Don't just use this like I had nothing to do at noon Eastern time, so I joined these lovely ladies. Do something with what you learned. That's the most important thing with anything we do. That's why we are doing what we're doing, is you're taking an action to live life on your own terms and not need anyone to do that. So thanks again for everyone, and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Liz. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.